But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest."
We talked about the word compassion before. This is the feeling that Jesus had in his heart about the multitudes. And pretty much can say that it's about everyone. Jesus felt this sense of compassion, care. And we should also have the same feeling of compassion and care towards people that we meet, that we bump into, that God puts us in the presence of. Let's go a couple of chapters further in 15, verse 32. Still we're in Matthew 15:32. 15:32. Yes, go ahead.
Now Jesus called his disciples to himself and said, "I have compassion on the multitude, because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I do not want them to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way."
That's even using the same word. Jesus says, "I have compassion on them," and for a good reason. They were out and about traveling with no food for 3 days, and Jesus felt compassion, felt that he needed to do something, and he did. Right? He fed them right after, and then that's just one time. It was another time that he did the same. Why? Because he cared about them. If you care about someone, you've been in that situation. Somebody comes to your home and you know they're hungry. Have you eaten something? Nope. Okay, well, let's go to bed. No, you want to offer them food, right? So it's just a very basic compassion type thing to do, right? Feed someone when they're hungry. Luke chapter 7. Let's also read in the Gospel of Luke. Normally I call on Luke, but this time I'll call on Zach. Go ahead, Zach.
Now it happened the day after that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and a large crowd. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother. And she was a widow, and a large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." So he who was dead sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother.
So again, this is a poor widow. Not going to go into the story a lot, but a woman suffering, and Jesus sees her pain and her suffering, and what does Jesus do? The first response, Jesus had compassion. He felt compassion. And again, this is a moment where we should learn from Jesus, and we also should have compassion. As we go about, as we see someone in suffering, as we see someone in need, have compassion and do something about it, right? Jesus didn't say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I hope you feel better. Don't worry, things are going to be fine," right? Do something about it. And Jesus did something about it. The greatest thing he can do about it, which is raise that son up, bring him back from the dead, give it to the woman. Absolutely marvelous thing to do. Of course, we don't have that kind of power that Jesus had to bring someone from the dead, do we, Mary? Can we do that? We can't do that. But there's other things we can do, smaller things we can do that shows that we care, right? And if you really ask yourself the question, how can I help this person? How can I share? How can I show that I care? What are some practical ways that I can express compassion? Things will come up to you, right? And then you can end up doing things to really alleviate their pain, care for them. John chapter 11, this is at the raising of Lazarus. I'm going to go to Merrick. Go ahead, Merrick.
Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept.
So that certainly is the event when Lazarus died, good friend of Jesus and brother of Martha and Mary. And Jesus was so moved by all the emotions and all the pain, really, that that Martha and Mary were experiencing, and the atmosphere, and certainly he had compassion and moved him to tears. That's the first time in the Bible, in the New Testament, where we see that Jesus cried, actually. The first time that we see, of course, Jesus cries later when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, when his tears turn into drops of blood. But Jesus was moved to tears because someone was in suffering. And we also should take after the example of Christ and also be moved to have emotions when someone is hurting or struggling, and for us then to do something about it, whatever we can. And sometimes it may not be a lot. Sometimes it's just a matter of being there, present there. And sometimes that's all that you need to do. But really, that's really what is required, what is needed, really, for us to be like Jesus, to love like him, as opposed to just keep yourself withdrawn, and that certainly will show that you don't care. Very good. And the last point I have on this slide is a concentrated exercise of will. And this is why I put last, but I think it's one of the most important ones. Learning to love like Jesus, it's a concentrated exercise of will. You exercise your will to act a certain way towards a person, right? It's very intentional. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to be very intentional in the act of you loving someone or showing someone that you love, that you care. So let's read a couple of verses here. First in Mark chapter 1, verse 40 and 41. Mark chapter 1, 40 to 41. Who wants to read this? Go ahead, sir.
Now a leper came to him, imploring him, kneeling down to him, and saying to him, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Then Jesus, moved with compassion, stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, "I am willing, be cleansed."
Isn't that a beautiful passage? I like it how he puts the question. If you're willing, just say, "Sure, I'm willing. Let's do this." Boom, cleaned. So it was a matter of will, right? A will, like he was willing. You have to be willing. You've got to want to do that, to express that concern and care. And I'll tell you, oftentimes the reason why we don't see a lot of love, even from those around us that we expect maybe love, is because the will is not there, or it's kind of scarce. So let's be willing. Let's be willing. Luke chapter 19, verse 10. Let's read this verse now. 19, verse 10. Go ahead, Brad. Somebody's up, but very quiet.
For the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost.
Yes, seek and save. So seeking certainly involves effort. And really, why was he seeking the lost? Well, for the sake of the fact that he loved us. If he didn't love us, if he didn't place value on us, do you remember the parable of the lost coin we studied last Sunday? I mean, obviously, why was the woman looking for it, turning the whole house upside down? Because that coin had value to her and wanted to find it. Well, if it didn't have value, would she take that kind of time? I mean, sometimes you go to a gas station, okay, and you see a penny on the floor. I haven't seen one for a long time. Do they even have them anymore? And you see a penny on the floor. Hey, it's a piece of money. I mean, there used to be a time, I'll be honest with you, that I will definitely pick up and say, "Oh, it's a penny. Look at me. I even find money on the ground." It's like, how happy can I be? I'm so blessed with such little things. I find money so easy. Free money. But you see a penny, dirty kind of on a parking on a gas station. Do you say, "Oh man, I'm gonna go pick it up. It's such value for me"? Are you gonna do that? Pretty soon they'll be selling for $100 each. No, I don't think so. Yes, Brad?
I mean, it's the will of God that Jesus came and did what he did.
Yes.
It says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So, I mean, that's what we're supposed to do too. We're supposed to be seeking and saving the lost. And it's not because I can save them, but I can lead them to Christ,
Right.
who, through his sacrifice, will save them.
Right.
So it's just a continuation of that same will.
Right.
And that's one of the ways that we're supposed to love like him. We need to
Yeah.
be going out and seeking the lost to spread the gospel. And so much of the time, I feel like, I don't know if we try and make excuses about doing it or not, or versus not doing it, but we look at like Jehovah's Witness and the Mormons, and they are out, and those churches are growing because they're talking about it, and it's like, okay, well, we need to have that same passion and will, because
Yeah.
that's what we're told
Right.
to do.
But it boils to love. This is, I mean, we connected back to why Jesus seeks the lost, because he loved the lost. If we love the lost, we would do the same. And yeah, there's a connection, right? The fact that if you love someone, right, that you know they're lost, you're going to want to do something to save them. Now, keep in mind the Bible also, we have examples of the prodigal son, for instance. Somebody's lost, the father didn't go after him, right? He had to come back. There's many nuances. But we certainly have to be moved with that desire to make a difference in other people's life. And if we love them, right, we will exercise the will. We will go out of our way to really help them, make a difference in their life, right? And then Matthew 26:39. Who wants to read this? Matthew 26:39.
Stephanie's got it.
Are you putting on the spot, sir?
She's voluntold.
39.
39, yes, 26.
He went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will."
You are such a good reader. You should raise your hand all the time here. Yes, great reading. So, yes, so you see Jesus there. He says, not my will, but your will be done, Father, right? And what was the Father's will? He was just exercising the Father's will. It was not his will. And I'll tell you, the crux here of the matter is that way too often, all of us, yours truly included, we are just so absorbed with our own will, with what we want. And then that's why we end up not doing the will of the Father, right? I mean, I'm not suggesting that we don't do the will of the Father. I'm just saying that we can do so much better in exercising more of the will of the Father as we are exercising our own will. We have this constant pull down to really exercise our will as opposed to the will of the Father. And it takes a lot of energy sometimes to break through that. I'm sure that most of you watched this week the new Artemis 2. The new shuttle, as it was blasted off to go to the moon. They're going to go to the moon. So they went to the moon, they're coming back. But really what's staggering is just the strength, all that power that needs to be put out for the vessel when it goes up into the air. It's just mind-blowing, especially if you are there in person. I mean, it's really amazing the size of that giant spaceship. That's really what it is. And what is the reason? Really, there's so much effort, so much fuel, so much burning. Why is it so hard? Why can't just somebody take it easy and just go slow? Do you know? Yes, because it needs to go through gravity, and gravity pulls so hard, and you need to exercise so much effort to pull out through that gravity. And the lower to the earth you are, the more gravity that holds down everything. And the same thing with us. It takes a lot of effort to just get past our will, because our will, our carnal desires just holding us down. It takes a lot of effort. I'm not putting this lightly to just point the finger at you. Why don't you do this? Because it takes a lot of effort and is very, very intentional. So that's what it takes, a concentrated exercise of the will. Now, even though it's hard, it just takes effort, but it can be done. Just like certainly it took a lot of effort for Jesus, but he did it. So Jesus is a perfect example of love when he taught and when he healed. Let's read a couple of passages here. That's really when Jesus becomes an example of love, because when you see how he interacts with others. Matthew chapter 4, verse 23, just one verse. Lisa, Elena?
And he went throughout all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and affliction among the people.
You see, Jesus did that. And the question is, why did he do that? Well, because he cared, because he loved people. Jesus wouldn't have done that if he didn't care for people, if he didn't love people. And also in Matthew chapter 9, verse 35. Elena, you want to read this also since you're here? And maybe Tracy, you want to read Mark 6:6?
And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease.
The same thing over and over. So you see it in verse 4, see it again in verse 9. He was very busy. He was very busy. And Tracy, can you read Mark 6, verse 6?
And he marveled because of their unbelief, that he went about the village and asserted, teaching.
He marveled because of their unbelief, and he still kept on preaching and teaching, even though they didn't have really much faith, or not many people that did. So he taught and healed people. He fed the needy. He fed the needy. Matthew chapter 14, let's read these few verses, please. Verses 13 to 21. Love this section here. Matthew 14, 13 to 21. Who wants to read this? Tracy, you want to read that since you only got away with one passage earlier?
When Jesus heard it, he departed from there by boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard him, they followed him on foot from the cities. And when Jesus went out, he saw a great multitude, and he was moved with compassion for them, and he healed their sick. When it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is already late. Send the multitudes away, that they may go into the village and buy themselves food." But Jesus said to them, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." And they said to him, We have here only 5 loaves and 2 fish. He said, "Bring them here to me." Then he commanded the multitudes to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke, and gave the loaves to the disciples, and the disciples gave to the multitudes. So they all ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of fragments that remained. Now those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children.
So 5,000 men, that's the first feeding because he had compassion. And then in chapter 15, we see him again in a similar situation, and he feeds again the multitudes. And the reason why is because as he says, I'm not going to read this. Actually, let's read this section too. Let's also read in 15, 32 to 39. We see Jesus again having compassion on the crowd. 32 through 39. Who wants to read this? Go ahead, Eric.
I have compassion on the multitude because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I do not want to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. Then his disciples said to him, "Where could we get enough bread in the wilderness to fill such a great multitude?" Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have?" And they said, 7 and a few little fish. So he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and the fish and gave thanks, broke them, and gave them to his disciples. And the disciples gave to the multitude. So they all ate and were filled, and they took up 7 large baskets full of fragments that were left. Now those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And he sent away the multitude, go into the boat, and came to the region of Magdala.
So the first time, how many he fed the first time? 5,000. Plus women and children. So the 5,000 men alone. So it's very likely that they were maybe just as many women. And back in the day, people have more than just one kid if they drag them along. We could assume that it definitely were at least 10,000 people that Jesus fed. And then again, 4,000 the second time. All why? Because he had compassion. He had compassion. And again, he fed 4,000, just men alone, women and children. Again, very reasonable to think that he fed over 10,000 again, just a chapter later. Why? Because he had compassion and he fed the needy.
So these are two separate events?
Yes, these are two separate events. This is not the same event. We are recorded in the scriptures twice that Jesus fed the multitudes. So, very important. So yes, besides healing and teaching the crowds, he really put that in practice and fed them. And I'll tell you, there's something special about feeding people. There's something really very special when you eat with people, right? And it's one of the best thing to do with friends, to eat, right? That's what brings people together. And how awesome that Jesus used this really to get people together. And I imagine it was an amazing atmosphere there. Can you imagine 4,000 people all eating and having so much food? And I can only imagine that the bread that Jesus made was wonderful, and the fish, right? I mean, because anything Jesus makes is amazing. I mean, look at the wine. It's like, whoa, this is not just average wine. Yes, that's fantastic. So I'm sure they had an amazing time. Of course, the next day, what do? They kept on coming after him. And Jesus knew that they weren't coming after him for the teaching anymore. Now they said, oh, we want to eat again. And he says, well, I'm not just keep on feeding you. You go feed yourself. And Jesus didn't keep on feeding them. They would have followed him all the time. If it was not about just the physical feeding, right? All the time. Although sometimes Jesus certainly did that because he took pity and had compassion on them. Also, Jesus did good. There are several passages in Scripture where we read that Jesus did good. Did good. Acts chapter 10, verse 38. Let's please read this. Acts 10:38. It's a very simple passage, but it's a very profound passage talking about Jesus. Who wants to read Acts 10:38? Lisa?
How God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power, who went out doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him.
See, this is one thing that we learn from Jesus. If we can just be committed to do like him. Go about doing good. Go about doing good. And you can tell me, well, what does that mean? I don't care. Just do good. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Do good. Whatever you define as good, do that. I mean, so some people try to just make it so complicated. Oh, what does it constitute doing good? Just whatever you think is good, do good. Okay, you have the Spirit in you. You have your mind that God gave you. You know what doing good means. Do that. Whatever it is, good. You can read a book if you want, or you can go, I don't know, ask ChatGPT what is doing good to other people. You can say, give me 1,000 things that I can do good to other people. And he'll give you a list of 1,000 things that you can do good. Starting from helping your neighbor to feeding the poor in China or in Africa. Mark? Mark has a few ideas of how to do good.
I just think it's funny about how direct, because people have this question of what does it mean to do good, but in things like Philippians, how it says like, whatever things are lovely, good, of like, if there's anything of virtue, praiseworthy, it just says meditate on these things. Just like, just do things like that.
Yes,
it just sends you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you generally just do these things, you'll be fine. You'll do good. Just do these things, don't do these things. It makes it so simple.
Very simple. It doesn't take a lot of, it's not difficult, right? It's not like calculus, okay? It's just easy. Tracy?
I was just saying, it becomes easier as we dwell in the Word of God. And
Yeah.
become closer to God. We
Yeah.
want to do good because we want to please God. So
Yeah.
it becomes easier and easier as we move forward.
Yes.
When you're intentionally looking for
Yes.
things to how to help others, you will see them.
Yeah.
You'll be led by the Spirit.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
will be there.
And listen, you may not be able to do the kind of good that Jesus did. You'll never be able to do the kind of things that Jesus did. You can heal the sick. Maybe sometimes you can help them go to the store and buy them some ibuprofen and some pain medication, alleviate their pain. but you can like heal the blind and so forth. But you can teach. You may not be able to feed 5,000 people, but you can feed 1, 2, 3, 4. Jim, how many can you feed? I'm picking on him because he feeds people all the time. But whether it's one,
calculator.
that's okay. That's okay. So you may not necessarily be able to feed 5,000 people, but you can feed maybe one person that maybe is down on his luck, or maybe he doesn't have, he needs food, whether it's a homeless person or somebody that doesn't have a job or is more broke than you are. Let's also read John chapter 10, verse 32. John 10, 32. Go ahead, Bradley. Oshante. Or the baby.
Jesus answered them, I showed you many good works from the Father. For which of them are you stoning me?
So that's a little bit passive aggressive there for Jesus. Jesus did so much good things. And then the question is, I did so much good things among you. For which one do you stone me for? It's like, but of course there's a truth in that. That indeed, that's all that Jesus did was good.
Well, it elicits a thought from them.
Yeah.
The way that he answers,
Yeah.
it clearly puts it back on them.
Well, it convicts them to say, whoa, it just kind of switches, it puts back on them.
Which he's the ultimate teacher. And you
It
see
is.
You just immediately know.
It is, but their heart, though, their heart was so hard that they didn't accept that. They didn't receive that. And they didn't say, oh, we have a conscience. They didn't have a conscience to say, well, yeah, you did some good. They still want to kill him no matter what. No matter what Jesus did good, they didn't like it, right? The thought comes to mind when Lazarus was raised from the dead. And Jesus did a tremendous good. And what did they want to do? They want to kill Lazarus again. It's like, leave the man, the man just been raised from the dead, okay? Let him live a little bit. Oh no, we're going to kill him now. The opposite of doing good, right? So that's what Jesus did. And if you really lean to really spend some time to see what Jesus did, you can be like Jesus, but just by doing some of the things that he did. And the last one is the fact that he went to the cross. This is the only thing that we cannot do. We can do all of these. We can teach, we can heal, not like Jesus, but we can heal. We can help with the healing, even if it's just a word or a kind comment or being there for somebody. Healing is not just giving someone their sight back because they're born blind, right? Or healing a paralytic, a person that can't walk from their mother's womb. But we can feed the needy, we can teach people, we can do good. Well, going to the cross, we can't. Although we do need to take our cross daily and follow him. That's a form of going to the cross. Let's please read John chapter 15, verse 13. Luke, you want to read this? John 15, 13.
Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends.
Talk about love, right? That is what the study is about. And certainly Jesus did that, lay down his life. And not just for his friends. Jesus laid down his life for sinners, right? For everyone. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 2. Let's please read this also. Ephesians 5, 2. Bradley?
And walk in love just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us, an offering and sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma.
I like that. Walk in love. That's what it says, walk in love? Walk in love. How do you walk in love?
It's constant.
It's constant. Every single day. Every single day you do good. Every single day you feed the needy. I like that. Every single day you teach and you think about others and you do for others. That's what it means to walk in love. Yes, sir.
Oh, I was basically going to say that it's like Christ gave up his life for us, and in a similar way, it's not about me, it's about everyone
Yeah.
else. I give up my life,
Yes.
my needs, my wants, so I can
Yes.
focus on everyone else's
Yeah.
needs and wants.
Yeah.
And when we all do that, we all take care
Of
of
course.
one another.
Yes.
So it works out. It's not one person's doing it and everyone else is being selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
We all do it.
Mhm.
And as a whole, as a congregation, church, as a society, we would thrive.
Yeah.
But selfishness makes us fail as humans.
Yeah. Selfishness is like putting a wet blanket on a fire, right? Very good. Thank you. And then last verse here is 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. 1 John 4. Who wants to read this? I guess you've been voluntold again.
Beloved, let us love one another, for love is God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. And this the love of God was manifested towards us, that God has sent his only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through him. In this love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another.
This is so important. So important. And verse 12, I'm going to continue. I should have had verse 12 here too. He says, no one has seen God at any time. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love has been perfected in us. I love it because hard as it is to love, right? It takes an act of the will, and it's sacrificial. But it says that if we love others, then God abides in us. God abides in us. That means the more that I love others, the more God abides in me, because God is love, right? And of course, it starts by encouraging us to love one another, because love is of God. Love is one of the most prevalent, the most important attribute of God, that God loved us. And we are like God when we love him, right? So, very important. Let's continue. Just have a couple more passages, another 2 minutes. We'll read a couple more passages, and then we'll take a break. So let's have someone read John chapter 15, verse 9 and 10. Here on the screen, easy peasy. All you got to do is raise your hand and have a microphone. Go ahead. Rhett.
As the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love.
So this is a very powerful passage here. First, it says that Jesus loved us just the way that God loved him, which is a great love. I mean, if you think about how God, the Father, loves his Son, right? I mean, think of any father here. We talked about the affectionate family love. I'm looking at Bradley, right? Just had this wonderful baby. Do you love your son by any chance? You do? You do. Of course you do. But you see, your love is somewhat limited compared to how God loves his Son, right? Because your love, our love, is not as perfect as the Father who is perfect, and his love will be perfect. So the love that the Father loved us, I mean, you get a taste of how you love the baby, and now you kind of know how Father loves you, right? I mean, does it change dynamics a little bit?
A lot.
A lot. Yes. I'll tell you, in my experience as a Christian, it was when I started having kids, and now I have 3 kids, and I'm so thankful for them. But it just being father yourself changes so much your perspective on how the Father loves you. Of course, you know that the Father loves us, right? But it's not until you're a father yourself, and then you kind of put yourself in God's shoes in relation to how you relate to your kids, and now you see your kids a certain way. You couldn't relate to anybody like that before you were a father, right? It's really an amazing example that God gives us. And Jesus here says, I love you as my Father loved me. And the second part, it puts it on us. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. So for us to abide in his love, we just have to keep his commandments. Keep his commandments, again, an act of the will. And it's not going to be about your will, but it's a will of the Father. And Jesus even tells how, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and I abide in his love. If we can just do this, simple as it is, as it sounds, certainly it's not as simple to put in practice, but if we are able to control the ego and put God first, even above our own will, things fall into place so nicely. So I really appreciate your time. Let us end here because our time is up. We will continue this study on Wednesday. We'll take a 50-minute break and come back for worship at 11. Thank you.